Are we live? Oh, hello. I think we're live now. Can everybody hear us, see us? Is that all good?
Nobody's
Hopefully,
on
we'll wait for the comments.
Yeah, that little eye tells you how many people are on here.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we've got 5 in there. All right. If someone wants to comment and let us know if you can hear us, see us. I'm Mariana. This is Dee, and this is our podcast, Babes, Breakdowns, and Breakthroughs. Today, we're just going to talk a little bit about living successfully with dysfunctional people, some of the ways that we manage to do that, and we would love to hear from you guys. Questions, concerns, any of that. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. That's you, Dee.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to pull up the comments so I could see everybody. Hi, good morning, everybody.
Okay,
there we go. Yeah, I'm all set up now. Okay. So I guess I just wanted to start us off with, what started it all. So I was just going to talk a little bit about how I grew up and who I grew up with. I was adopted into my family. It was the woman that adopted my father is the one that adopted me. And right off the get, I just had a lot of, don't even want to say, but like dislike because of, I was my dad's daughter. My dad was, my grandmother was definitely an enabler with him with how he chose to live his life. My father was in prison and my mother was not there. So I guess I had, I don't know. I guess I didn't have an understanding for why I was treated so differently from like my cousins and everybody that was around. Because it was my grandmother and then I had my aunt, and it was, we had a big family. I had tons of cousins. I had aunts, uncles, but I was always shamed for doing anything that any of my cousins was doing. Or I was always, I would leave a room and I would hear little comments about my weight and how I said things and what I did. And I was this princess. And I was this, and it was all for my grandma treating me like as a daughter. They didn't want me to be treated different than the other grandkids, I guess. But I didn't have that. I didn't have those parents there. My grandmother was my parent, and I just never had an understanding for it. And I feel like it really like beat me down for a long time. And I remember that one of my breaking points with my family and like finally being able to like stand up for myself went a little sour. I remember I had one of my aunts, and well, she was my grandmother's daughter, but we all called her auntie. And and I remember there was something we would always have these big 4th of July parties. And I remember everybody was shoving everybody into my room. And I said something like, well, why can't you share a room with your husband instead of putting 3 other people in my room, having a spare bedroom for, I said something, and maybe it wasn't my place. Maybe it was, but I remember she got super upset with me, and it was always like very explosive with me. It was, if I had anything to say, everybody wanted to jump on it, and oh, you're this and you're that and this is that, And I remember my Aunt Carol, she said she said something about me being a little princess, and I was like, okay, well, not my place, and she kept pushing me in a corner and pushing me in the chest and pushing me back and pushing me back. And I told her, I was probably like 12, 13 years old. And I'm like, stop putting your hands on me. Stop putting your hands on me. And she was hitting me in the head, pushing me in the chest, and oh, you're a little princess. Oh, you're this and you're that. And I just like didn't understand where this came from. I was just like the other kids. We did the same thing. We went out and caused the same amount of trouble, I just never understood why I was such an outcast,
Mm-hmm.
And I just broke. She pushed me in my chest real good one time, and I put my hands on her. I lost it. I pushed her back, and her husband and everybody around us grabbed me. And I remember her husband picked me up by my neck, and she kicked me in my stomach. And I ran out of the house. I ran down the street. Yeah, it was like I was a little girl, dude. And
super traumatizing.
I don't care how young you are. Everybody has limits. Everybody has their breaking points of when you fight back. You can only put somebody in a corner so long and push and push and push until somebody snaps or reacts. And that's what I did, and that's really my point of where I just got like shunned from the family. Like I was crazy. I needed help. I should have went to jail and like all these things. And I'm like, did nobody just see what happened?
Right.
Like this woman put her hands on me at least 6-7 times before I told her multiple times, stop putting your hands on me. Stop hitting me across the head. Stop pushing me into a corner, And so I guess that's just a little glimpse of like what I grew up with and what I grew up around. And I just always had comments on who I was, what I looked like, how much weight I gained, like as a little girl. And it was just, it affected me long-term, like immensely,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like you're definitely being gaslit in that situation. Like I can really relate to that, where it's like, they push and push and push. And then when you react, they're like, well, why are you reacting? What did we do? That's all you, Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. Real quick, I'm just going to do a quick roll call here, or shout out. We've got Heather Rhodes. Hello. Blessed. You're here. Thank you so much. I can't figure out how to make you a mod, but Sam will show me how. Let's see. We've got Rebecca. Hello. Galen.
I see a comment about echoing too. Are we echoing?
Oh, are we echoing?
If someone wants to throw that in the chat.
James Collins. Hello. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to our first live. We really, really appreciate it.
A little bit, maybe just
turn down my volume. Sam's here to help. Don't worry, guys.
Thanks for all the support. We appreciate you being here. We're excited.
Also, you guys should know that we did not plan the same hairdo. This just happened. Okay.
Yeah.
That should fix it.
I barely heard you.
Okay.
I'm not concerned though.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Sorry to divert there. Yeah, so I definitely right. Back on track. Yeah, I definitely relate to a lot of that, where you just grow up in that truly what I would consider for me a narcissistic environment. And in so many ways that led me into the relationships I chose later, whether that was just your interpersonal relationships or your intimate relationships. And learning to set those boundaries was really hard. Similarly to Dee, I grew up with my aunt, not my mom. And she was bipolar, and she had schizoaffective disorder. And as a young kid, I didn't understand. I was in about 5th grade when I moved in with them full time. And I just didn't understand. I didn't understand why I was feeling all these heavy things. Especially later on, I learned being an empath. That's kind of what happens. But they just, like you said, it's so funny, like not funny, but that you have the story of them like poking you in the chest, because sometimes that's even what it feels like emotionally, like they're pushing back on you. They're pushing you further and further and further into a corner. And as a kid, you don't know how to get out of that, because you're taught, basically not necessarily, but like kids are seen, not heard. You know what I mean? I really feel like that was kind of, especially, and not heard for me. It was like, not just like heard, like you don't hear me, but like emotionally, my needs weren't met. Physically, a lot of my needs weren't met. And so then I took on these coping skills that were super unhealthy. And I had to unlearn a lot of that. But for
Well, your
me,
opinion didn't
growing
matter as a child. Like, I feel like
right.
with my family, it was, oh,
Yes.
you're a child. Your opinion is not relevant at all.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And
Exactly.
that teaches you all the right things to set you up for life, to be
Right.
that confident
Right.
human that goes out and, we all get faulted for
Right.
being opinionated, but
Absolutely. Yeah. No, for sure. And I think that like that environment is what led me to picking these people who didn't meet my needs, who didn't respect me. And I actually had a therapist tell me once, and it was like a giant aha moment for me. She was like, you're picking these partners because you're trying to fix them in ways that you couldn't fix your caregivers. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that really made me think. Like it really made me take a step back. And but growing up with a mentally unwell aunt, it really taught me to people please, and to scan my environment, not just physically but emotionally. And so now, anytime somebody's upset, I feel that. Like I can tell the difference between you joking about something and you making fun of me joking. Like I 100% know the difference, So
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm so sensitive to a lot of things too. And I try not to be like sensitive towards other people, but your inner child does get brought out when you don't like sit back and heal those type of things. Cause you don't think that that's not normal,
Right.
like growing up and seeing like, and what I spoke on earlier, like, and you too, like, that's just a little glimpse of the dysfunction.
Mhm.
Like that was like a little breaking point. Like the things that I seen, heard, and dealt with, like it all had like such a major impact on who I was when I became an adult. And then I was by myself at such a young age and didn't really know how to navigate my emotions. Wasn't confident in myself. I had so many insecurities. And when you don't
Mhm.
heal like that type of energy, you attract that type of energy. And you don't realize
Mhm.
energy is so huge in this world. And again, like you just attract what you haven't healed in yourself, I guess I should say.
Right. Absolutely. Like kind of what you said about like if you don't heal yourself, that's what you'll attract. I watched this video. I spend more time than I probably should on Facebook Reels, but truly it's a lot of really good content. I learned so much. But there was this video and it had like like those big pickle jars, not like the regular size ones, but it's like two of those. So, I guess they did this study and they took fleas. I believe it was fleas, like literal fleas. And they put them into this jar. And at first they'll try and get out. But if you leave them in that jar for 3 days with the lid on, you can take the lid off and they'll never jump higher than that lid ever. Their offspring will never jump higher than that lid. And that to me was like what a beautiful physical representation of healing generational trauma, of how that truly affects you, because being in a place where you're beat down, you don't really even, I mean, it took me until I was in my early 20s to even figure out what my morals were. I had no idea because things that I thought were okay for a long time weren't okay. And so I had to have this like rebirth of who I was. And so much of that was accepting who I am and who I'm becoming, but accepting those past versions of myself too. I feel like we both have done a lot of that.
Well, and you know what? To go back on, I'm so grateful that I did experience this as a kid. And that sounds crazy. I've always craved, like, I wish I had that normal childhood, but now I'm able to provide that for my child and not like dull his shine or make him feel
Yes.
less than. Like his opinion does matter, his feelings do matter, who he is and who he wants to be does matter. The things he has to say does matter, and I feel like going through these things and being able to sit here and having a friend like you that I can heal with and grow with, like this is what has made me like an amazing mother to my child. And I know that he'll never lack those things in his childhood. He won't. He might, you know, I am a single mom, so there is things that I have mom guilt over that he does lack, you know, but I know, like, emotionally, my child's needs will be met. And my child is so confident. He'll walk into any room, he'll start a conversation with you, like, and that's so beautiful, you know, like, I was afraid to talk to the adults. I was afraid because I'd always get, you know, shunned for speaking or this and that, like, you know.
Right.
And I know you can agree with Hazley. You're an amazing mom.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, I know we've talked about this often, but like how in raising our children, it has really helped heal our inner child as well, because in the ways that we were responded to, we get to change that script. We get to do differently. And in providing that comfort for them, you're also providing that comfort for yourself as well. And yeah, blessed. I totally agree. You know, when you're raised in that environment, your children are affected, everybody is affected, and that can be really hard. It takes a extreme toll on all of I truly believe that, like, the scope of like how much it affects people with mental illness is exactly the same as addiction. It affects families very similarly.
Well, and there wasn't as much research, and like people didn't buy mental illness back then. You know what I mean? Like, mental illness was so shoved down back then that it wasn't a thing, you know, like, oh, you have depression, just get up and do like, you know, the way that people looked at mental health back then, it was non-existent, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, and especially Blessed to Crochet put in here. Can you see these when I put them up, Dee? The little chats at the bottom?
Yeah,
or no?
Yeah.
Okay, you can.
Yeah,
Okay,
I know you're going off of them. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Bless said that my dad was very verbally abusive with me. I really had a very similar experience with my aunt. She, I mean, from across the house would yell the most raunchy, awful things. Or like if I didn't load the dishwasher the way that she wanted sometimes, like in the morning, she'd come in, you effing B, whatever, you know, like, and that's how I would wake up in the morning. And there was so many days I was like, I don't feel good. I can't go to school. I'm sick. And now I understand how that emotion physically affects you as a whole. Like people who are super mentally unwell and can't get help or aren't able to get help, it physically affects your body. You have sore joints. You can't think straight. You've got brain fog. You know, you've got tension in places. I'm going like this. This is where mine is. If you can't
tell. Yeah, you're like, you know where you're
right. Yeah. And it can just be so hard at times to make it through that, especially when you don't have an example of how to do that. Nobody taught me how to even give myself compassion for a situation or anything like that. It was all things I had to learn through friendships like I've had with Dee, you know, and all of that. So yeah, it can really take a mental toll for sure.
And I think it's super important to sit back and be able to give what we grew up with and who we grew up with, like the grace and stuff too. Because there's so many broken people, and whatever they went through, I don't know. I wasn't around for it. And not everybody has the tools to sit down and heal those parts of themselves. And I pray that they do, and they're at peace in their life, and they're not causing chaos in others and putting everybody down to make them feel up here, you know? And I don't know. I just think that I have to forgive in order to have the peace in my life, you know?
Right. And I'm a very firm believer in like forgiving somebody doesn't mean forgetting what happened. And also that, like, in my experience, just with everything I've went through with myself, and the relationships that I've had around me, I personally haven't been able to forgive other people for the things they've done to me until I forgave myself first. Until I forgave myself, I didn't have the capacity or understanding to forgive them. And I think that sometimes it's so hard to go back to that place mentally that it's easier to just shove it down, you know?
Well, and when with everything, to going back to the forgiveness of ourselves too, as little girls, it's like, well, at what point was it, okay? But there's so much things you think about as an adult of like why this happened or this and that. I think that with everything that happened in my childhood and I felt so unheard and everything, that's when, I started my addiction at such a young age. And I think that's like where I learned to give myself grace and forgiveness of like where I was, because I have a lot of resentment, towards them and towards myself because I felt so low about myself. And I started my addiction when, I want to say 13, 14 years old, I started dabbling in hard drugs and I just spiraled, and I was in my first treatment facility when the only person that ever was there for me passed away. And that was a really, I got out of the facility and spiraled again. I didn't know how to handle it. I went to my, grandmother's funeral and I had a 24-hour pass out of the treatment facility I was in, and walking in and like not one person like standing up and like hugging me or like saying hello, like everybody's so angry. And I'm like, you guys don't understand, like all of this dysfunction has affected me. Watching my grandfather pass away when I was 12, and then watching my grandmother pass away when I was 16, 17 years old, like it was a lot, and if they're not going to give me grace, I'm going to give me grace. I'm going to give me grace for that. And it took me a long time to accept that within myself, because how dare you be so selfish when your grandmother is sick and I nursed her for years as a young teenager. I watched her just start to deplete and her health was gone and she was constantly sick and I was constantly doing this and I got lost in my addiction, because I couldn't handle that type of pain.
Right. Well, and especially because nobody taught you to go through that. No one taught you how to go through the motions, or that to feel angry is okay. To be sad is okay. To feel betrayed is okay. And I think that when your needs constantly aren't met, whether it's from a partner or a friend or a parent, you learn to like, at least I learned it. I learned to just accept that. I accepted that as love. Love was always conditional for me for a long time. You know what I mean? Really, until I left my first husband and made good friends and met my husband that I have now. Like, it's taught me so much, but it's so hard when, and too, like people underestimate, because it's like, especially like with the story that you just shared, it's like you were kind of away from that situation for a while where you could kind of just like shove it down and forget about all those people. But when you had to walk into that alone with nobody to help you, knowing it was about to be real messed up emotionally for you.
Well, losing
but
the
it's
one
like, what
person
other
that
option did you
loved
have?
Unconditionally. Yeah.
And then it's like, it's such a trigger to be in that environment again around those people. I've definitely experienced that,
Yeah. Well, and I had such anger for that moment for a long time too, because I'm like, God, I just lost my parent. Like, you guys can have your opinions, that's fair, but I'm still family. And I think that's another reason I'm so big on family. My dream is, if I ever found the right man, would be to marry into a big family that is so accepting and loving, no matter what. Now, I get we don't enable and this and that, but to have that unconditional love and people have those values of, that is my family, that is my blood, and we love you no matter what, like I think we all crave that.
At what point in like your journey with all of this do you feel like you were able to start like accept, like setting boundaries with those people? And like, when did you start giving yourself that self-love? Like, when did that change happen for you?
God, it took me a long time. It took me a long
Me too.
time. I spiraled, and then I did okay, and then I spiraled, and then I did okay. And, you know, I got out of that treatment facility and I started using again. After going down to Hamilton and seeing my grandmother's grave, and I just felt alone in this world. I felt so alone. And then I was incarcerated. And I think that I fell into a lot of things because it almost took me out of my own reality, you know? I sat in the moment and I created the chaos too, because that's what I knew how to do. I just kept creating it. And there was a point when I was at the parole board and they flopped me for a year. And I was getting out. I knew it's fine, you know? And I got flat for a year and I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy, what are you doing? And then I start looking around of like, I know who I am deep down inside and I know what I want in life. I have drive, I have ambition, I have big dreams. These walls are not my dream. And I do not want to sit with these women that don't have any drive for life. This is what they accept and this is what they will continue to accept. And I knew that wasn't going to be me. I knew it wasn't going to be me. So I started trying to act right. I started trying to be following the rules and making sure I'm not getting into things. I separated myself from the chaos. And I just started reading a lot and working on myself. I started doing the gym there. I went into the volleyball league we had. Yes, we had a volleyball league. I killed it. But yeah, I think I started to find things that I loved. And that kind of helped me like find who I was again and like how to love myself and do these healthy things that made me feel good inside. And so when I got out, you know, like I went into pre-release, I still had a bad attitude. You know, girl, you know, you met me in pre-release, you know, and I was working on it, but there's still so much like hate for the world and mad at this person and mad at that person and look at me this way and I'll do, you know, like it was just such a sick mentality that I evolved in when I was incarcerated too. And getting out, I was in a program and I'm so thankful for Blackie. I hope she jumps on here and uses Monday because that's a woman that I will never forget. And that is one of hundreds of people that have been in the facilities, running the facilities that stuck out to me. Because a lot of people are there for the wrong reasons or just don't care, you know? And she saw something in me, you know? She believed in me and she broke me down and she built me back up. And I used to just think that she was so hard on me because she didn't like me. And I had the victim mentality of, oh, you're just coming at me because I'm this way or that way, you know? And it was more so of, girl, I believe in you. I know you have drive. I know you have this. And for that one person to give me that unconditional love that barely knew me. It was like, it changed my life, dude. Like she changed.
I have chills. I really do.
Yeah, she changed my mindset of life and what the world looks like and who I am and what people, strangers, believe in you more than the people that are this close to you, you know? And it takes that one stranger to believe in you and push you through something. And I don't know, I think that was like my big turnaround, you know? I still had my ups and downs. I still had a lot of things to work on, but I don't know. I do feel like that one stranger really struck me because I couldn't believe the kindness she was showing me. But it was tough love. It was tough love because she knew I needed it, but she was going to stick by me. She's going to stick by me.
And she always has. She always has.
Oh, yeah. The one time I remember I was about to be out of my program and be into the actual pre-release because I was an inmate worker for 6 months. And she knew I got in trouble with my mouth and fighting. So I was on a zero tolerance policy. And this girl, I never seen her. She worked up on the second floor, which is like a holding facility on the second floor. And I was in the laundry room, and I don't remember exactly what she said to me, but she said, "What'd you just say to me, Evans?" Me? I didn't say anything to you. Yeah. You know? And she
Let me put my goggles on. Who asked you?
She said, "You're not going to threaten me in here. You're not going to cuss at me." What are you talking about? I zipped past her and went to the front. I'm like, she's crazy. I didn't do anything. And she's like, she was threatening me in the laundry room. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? I was doing good, girl. I was on my stuff. I was working on myself. I couldn't believe that I didn't know who this girl was. And she just started coming at me. And I remember they put me in cuffs and they were going to take me back. They were going to put me back in prison because I was on zero tolerance. And I'm like, no fucking way, dude. This is not happening. And Blackie comes out of her office because you couldn't see. She had blinds in her office. So you couldn't see when she was in there. She said, "Don't you dare." She said, "You should be ashamed of yourself. That girl didn't." And she had my back. She saved me from going back, dude.
I actually remember that.
Yeah, I was tripping. And they're like, "Evans, you need to calm down." And I'm like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Like,
yeah.
I'm pretty good at admitting when I'm wrong, and you'll know when I'm hyped up like that, you know? Yeah. So I was
chairs
like,
are flying.
Yeah, chairs be flying. But yeah, I think that was like definitely one of my points where I was just like, dang, dude, somebody believes in me and loves me and like appreciates who I am as a person and like wants to see me win. I hadn't had that in so long because you're so surrounded by people that are just ready to drag you down with them. You know, they don't give a shit. They got nothing to lose. They gonna take you down too. You know, you got that mentality. You're gonna be dragged just as hard. You know.
Yeah. Really quick, I just want to, I have left this comment up because Elizabeth said, first and foremost, thank you both for your channel. Not only myself, but so many more need this channel right now. I found you today from After the Bars this morning and subscribed right away. That makes us so happy because that's like, we're going to post, we've made 2 episodes that we haven't edited yet because we're brand new. But in the first one, we talk a lot about this channel and what we want it to be. And we just want to create a safe space. We want people to get on here and we're hoping that, you know, our stories and our healing can help other people heal as well. You know, we want to build a great community here in this chat, and just have a good time. You know, once we figure out how to set people as mods, we'll do that. But, you know, we're going to have a very strict zero tolerance policy for disrespect in here. You know, my biggest thing is shame dies when stories are told in safe places. I believe that through and through. I'll stand on all 10 toes till the day I die on that statement. I really will, because that's what helped me heal. And so just thank you so much for that comment. We really, really appreciate that. To what you were saying, though, about the pre-release people, on the opposite side of that spectrum, so I had done 6 or 8 months in county. I don't remember, waiting to get sentenced. And then I got sent to the treatment center in Billings, and I did 30 or 60 days. I think I did 30 days in treatment. And then you go down into the pre-release, which is like, you know, you live in there, but you get to go out into the community and work. It's basically a transitional living for anyone that might not know. And I remember, so I was my first day down in the pre-release side from the treatment center. And back then they didn't let you leave for like the first 5 days or something. I can't remember. Or maybe it was a week. I can't remember. You weren't allowed to leave. You had to just be down there. And I remember asking, because they don't have, you're not allowed to smoke on the property there. And I wanted to smoke a cigarette. I really wanted to smoke a cigarette. And I remember asking one of the CAs, which is just like the like care managers or whatever. I was like, hey, can I go smoke out here anywhere? And she looked at me and she was like, well, it won't be long till you're back here. I was like, excuse me?
I've heard those exact
Because I want to
words.
smoke a cigarette? I was up there for meth, lady. I'm pretty sure that some nicotine won't lead me to that, and I do understand the addictive behavior behind it and all that, but I was just like, it's so hard sometimes being in the system because people don't look at you like people anymore. They look at you like just this POS human, like you'll never do good. And I get it because only like 2% of people recover from addiction. It's insane. I don't know if that's an actual statistic, but I'm pretty sure that is. And so as the people who have recovered, we have to understand sometimes that the majority of them haven't. And that's why it's so important to us that, when you're in that dark place and you've made it out, our biggest goal is to bring the light back to the darkness for everybody to heal and grow and learn and to give yourself compassion and not to get down on yourself. And it's just so hard when everyone around you is telling you that you can't, and when you've been told your whole life you're not good enough, you can't do it. You know what I mean? And that can just be so very hard. I feel like I saw a question in here. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think, being in the system, but also being in the real world, we know, online, people come on here and say negative things to anything and everything, and being able to not let that negativity bother us anymore and being able to brush that off. I feel like I learned that while I was incarcerated too, because I heard the exact same thing. My what were they called? It was like our there was kind of like a counselor. Basically, you check in with them, and everybody had their own counselor. And I was in trouble a lot. I could understand the feedback and stuff, but I remember when I got flopped, I was doing something in the chow hall, and my counselor was in there, and she said something snarky to me, and I said something snarky to her back, and she was like, don't disappoint everybody else like you disappointed your grandmother. And I was like, oh, I tossed a tray. So I'm just like, but it was like, I was explosive. I was so tired of hearing all my, it's just so negative. Like, you're an animal in a cage. That's how they look at you, and I would say 90% of the people that work in the system are like that. And then there's those one very, very rare people in the system that are there because they've experienced something, they care, they see something in you. And I think that's what's beautiful about our channel is we want to be those people, put down in the chat of your story. Let's talk about it. Let's give you some feedback. Let's hear you. Let's see you. Let's heal from it, because there's so much negative in the world and nobody's perfect. If you want to say you didn't do this and that, everybody got a skeleton in their closet, and life is trial and errors. It is. Yep. So let's talk about it. Let's heal together. Let's grow. Let us be that one person that actually saw something in you and believed in you and know that you could do better,
Right. Do you feel like that? Because I do. Even from a young age, I always tried to see the best in people. I think both of us kind of have had a similar experience where neither one of us really realized that our childhood wasn't that great until we were adults. Those choices weren't fun to make anymore, but do you feel like that, people pleasing, at what point, or do you feel like that's something you still work on? Or do you think that there was a certain point where you recognized it?
Oh, I feel like there's certain boundaries that I have with but dating, I got that on. Sometimes it's almost too many. I'm like, nope, block. I'm not allowing this chaos, But when it comes to friends, I do have such an understanding for people, and we all make mistakes, But knowing the point of this was intentional versus this was unintentional is so important, because I'm not going to keep the people in my life that have ill intention for me at the end of the day. But I do struggle with that. I struggle with knowing how to like keep my boundaries with like certain friends or new friends, clients, coworkers. And there's a part of me that's afraid of confrontation too, because I have grown so much and I hate the angry person I was. And I still can be that angry person. And so I do try to avoid that side of me because I'm still working on it. And I think for me to go out of my comfort zone and be able to communicate what I don't like is super important for me. And I still struggle with it. To this day, I still struggle with it. I just want to shove it down and pretend it's not happening.
Yeah. Literally, like it's because it seems like the easier option when you don't know better. You know what I mean? Because I do feel that, like, for me, growing up, I shoved a lot down and I didn't accept a lot of things that were happening to me. I just like literally just pretended like none of it ever happened and went on with my life. Now as a 29-year-old woman, I'm in therapy every week because that stuff physically manifests in your body. I believe that 1,000%, because I mean, I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but like if you're even talking to a friend or a therapist, anybody, and you get into like this deep emotional story and like you get bubble guts all of a sudden, it's like this physical manifestation of the emotional symptoms. And I believe that our body stores all that energy, and you have to release it. You have to feel it and release it and forgive yourself for not knowing better, for not leaving sooner, for whatever the situation may be,
Oh yeah. I'm doing my antihistamine.
Oh, yeah.
Les said that. Sorry, we're going to the comments.
You're okay. I'm there too.
See, I love reading. I love that you guys are interacting and telling us a little bit about your story. Bless said that is what I'm doing now. My aunt is in hospice and we are just waiting for the phone call. I just don't feel like doing anything. Dealing with chronic pain doesn't help.
One's to blessed for healing and just comfort, girl. I feel that it can be so hard. Both of us have watched loved ones die, and it can really be a tough time, because sometimes, especially if you're around toxic family at the same time, but even if not, it's just hard to process that emotion sometimes, and to allow yourself to feel your feelings, because it can feel so unsafe and tumultuous, especially when you're not feeling good physically. Like chronic pain is I'm pretty sure one of the leading causes of people unaliving themselves. It's really, my husband deals with a lot of chronic pain as well. And, I just try and support him in any way I can in that, because it's rough. It's hard on your mental health. It's hard on your physical health, friendships. I mean, the scope goes pretty far on that.
Well, and also,
let's see. Elizabeth said,
congratulations.
19 years. Wow. 4 years ago, after having 19 years ago, I finally got humble and discovered it's an inside job. Absolutely, girl. And you know what? I really do believe, like, I don't love the saying relapse is a part of recovery, but we've both had situations where, like, in those moments, we learned so much about ourselves and about our journey and about what we want and don't want in this world. And just letting go of the shame of that and allowing yourself to be, and realizing that just because you relapse doesn't mean you have to continue. You can always ask for help. You can always reach out. And that's another big thing we want to provide with this channel, is a safe place for people to come and be like, hey, I messed up XYZ, and we'll send you all the love and support, because we get it. Life can be really hard sometimes, and it just, things don't always go the way that we plan, And so it's great.
I wouldn't shame behind that. Yeah.
Right.
Asking for help when we do.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Jane Fonda like said this quote one time about, and it was her and Lily Tomlin, who are like great friends. And she said, I wouldn't be the woman I am today without the women I've kept around me. They built me. And it's so true. And not just women, but the people around you, you know, because, you know, once you make a mistake or an oopsie or whatever, there's always time. And when you let that shame go and you let it out, I feel like it becomes so much easier to talk about it, to find support in it and all those things. It's the shame and guilt that keeps us from seeking help, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's also going back to just like having that one person that believes in you, and that friend and support group is so important to go to, because AA and NA work for a lot of people, and it's a great program, but through my experience, I haven't loved NA or AA, the groups that I went to, but being able to find like these women that have been through these similar situations and have an understanding for who I am and why we do certain things, and when we spiral or when we fall back into our addiction. Because I was what 8 years clean, and I did have a relapse moment because things were so common around me, and I ended up having an NDE, and that's really what had to wake me up. I truly feel that was my higher power telling me you don't even get to dabble. This is what it could be for you, and to be taken out of my child's life. Oh my God,
It's heavy.
dude. Leaving
Super
him with nobody, leaving him with who knows, you know, like that really was like, because I wasn't in it every day in this. I just was like, oh, well, maybe if I do this one time. And it ended up in a very extreme situation for me.
Mhm.
But I was so thankful
blessed.
to have you and Marina.
Oh.
Oh, I'm so sorry. But
No,
I
you're
just
okay.
want to
Go
say
ahead.
I'm so thankful that I have the girls I have and the support I do, because it was so, I don't know how I would make it through life without my girls and without the community that I've built for myself. And again, that's the community we want to build for everybody here.
Right. Bless said it makes it worse because a relative in the situation hasn't talked to us for over a year. My aunt will pass with her family divided. It has been so painful. Followed by, I feel like there's something wrong with me now for not wanting anything, but I know it isn't. It is an emotional time for our family. So Bless, my heart goes out to you, seriously. So I had a situation growing up where my grandfather passed when I was 16 years old. And in that time I was starting an addiction. My addiction really started with prescribed pills, Klonopin. I was prescribed it and I just started taking more and more because it helped numb me out. And I didn't understand necessarily, like I wasn't consciously thinking, oh, I want to be numb. I just knew that taking those pills made me feel good. And so you know, my grandpa passes, which was a really hard thing for me because my grandpa was like a dad to me. I spent every summer with him. Every weekend we went camping. He made me dinner. We did popcorn nights, like all the things. And our entire family had come up for his passing. And at that time, I was molested by one of my cousins. And I eventually came forward with it because my aunt, who was mentally unwell, basically told me, like, if you don't tell everybody what happened, and because the aunt was pregnant with another child, if you don't tell everyone what happened and this happens to that baby, that's your fault. That's your fault, and that's on you. And so I did. I called my aunt and I told her what happened. And it was met with, I'm a drug addict. It's not true. It divided our family for 11 years. 11 years I didn't see one of them until I moved back to Kalispell. And then I was at my sister's granddaughter, I don't know what she would be to me, at her birthday party. And my aunt comes walking in there and gives me a hug, the one whose son it was, who wouldn't talk to me or my family for 11 years, divided everything. walked in, gave me a hug, acted like nothing had ever happened after she sat there and told me I was a liar and a manipulator and it wasn't true and all this stuff. And I was so taken aback. And then my grandmother proceeded to tell me that it was her dying wish that we mended things. And I had actually at this point reached out multiple times to her to try and be like, hey, you know, a lot has happened in this amount of time, you know, like I don't want this division in our family anymore. And I was never responded to. I think I made 2 or 3 attempts to mend that situation, which truly it wasn't mine to mend in that situation. And then, you know, moving forward to when I moved to Kalispell, my entire family went up to my grandma's house for dinner and I wasn't allowed to go because no one knew how my aunt would react to that. So not only was I the one who got abused, I was then the one who was shunned as well. So I mean, that's kind of a long story to go off of for you, Bless, but I really understand that pain of the division of the family and then having to walk back into that situation. Like we have both been through that. And the best advice I could give would be just to give yourself compassion and give yourself love in this moment. You know, imagine giving that, you know, younger version of yourself a hug and tell her it's okay. There's no perfect process on grieving. And you just do what's right for you in this situation. Don't let anybody else make you feel like you have to do anything. That would really just be my advice on that, because that's just a really tough situation.
And if there is something where you guys can be in the same room with the passing of a loved one, you guys don't have to talk. You guys don't have to talk about things, but be able to sit around the bedside and all be there just for her, just to push everything aside and be there. And I know that's easier said than done. And if there's a way that your family is willing to do that, then I really do believe we should give those wishes to our loved ones that are passing, you know, to be able to have that moment in the room and be able to push our problems and our chaos aside for the people that we love, that we're about to lose forever. Yeah.
Elizabeth said, honestly, my relapse saved my life. I finally dealt with the molestation as a child in the DV with my ex-husband. Girl, that just gave me chills. I'm not even, I wish, I don't, can you see it? I had the same experience the last time that I was arrested. I'm not even joking you, like thankful. I was thankful. I was so thick in my addiction. I couldn't stop by myself. I just couldn't. And I actually went and like, it's a long story. I won't go into that today, but I basically had been on a high-speed chase and we got away, and then we ran up this mountain and I could see all the cops looking for us on this mountain. And I went and like slept under a tree. It was like the middle of November in Montana, which is cold if you don't know. And I had leggings and a tank top on with no shoes. I went and slept under a tree until I woke up. I have no idea how long I was asleep for. And I could see, because I figured, I'm like, oh, I can see the lights through the trees. They'll come get me. And I woke up and they still weren't there, but I could still see all the lights. So I literally walked my barefoot butt down that mountain and was like, take me, please take me. And it was like I knew it wasn't what I wanted anymore. I just didn't know how to stop doing it. So I really relate to that. I really think that last relapse and experience, it saved my life in so many ways.
Yeah. Well, and mine too. I look at life differently now, you know. What doesn't matter doesn't matter. You know, I figured out what is so important to me in this life, and I'm running with that, because I would do anything for my son and the people I love. I can't imagine if I left this world or went back to prison for the things that I choose to do, you know. And me almost losing my life put everything, like, I don't know, I see life so much more beautifully. I wanna find these good people in the world and cherish them and hold on to them and And the people that have these ugly sides and want to tear you down and this and that, they're not important. They're not important. None of it's important. What matters, you know, and that's where you really got to figure out what matters in this world and learn to love yourself and learn to have those boundaries for yourself and learn how to heal so we don't go back on those things that made our life chaotic and made our friends and family's life chaotic because they're so worried about us. And yeah, I can definitely relate with that as well.
Yeah. And Dee and I have talked like multiple times about how like healing, or what is it? What is what is that saying that we were talking about earlier? The oh no, not the same, but I like to ask myself in situations like, say that you're just super upset about something and you don't know how to like bring yourself down from it. I just have like trained myself to immediately think, and it does not always work, but I train myself to think, what will this situation matter to me in 5 years? In 5 years, will I still be thinking about this? Because if the answer's no, that tells me how much energy I need to give to that situation, you know? Because there's always going to be people poking at you saying that you're wrong for how you're living or how you're healing or how you're grieving. And my answer to that is it's none of your effing business. Like it's that's such a personal journey and everybody goes through it so different. And there's so many stages of healing. Like I've talked about before, you know, the way that I grieve my trauma now will probably be different than how I grieve it as a grandmother. Or, you know, or how I thought of it as a child, and just giving love to every version of yourself, passing on that compassion, because there's times where no one else is going to do it for you, you know, and that's why it's so important to us to build a community of people where you can come and be like, man, I had the worst day, XYZ happened, like, you know, and just let it out. It's so important to just let that stuff go and not hold it all down inside of you, you know?
Absolutely. I also posted Marina's comment up here.
I did.
Too. I'm so glad Marina's here. Marina is a great friend of mine. And
mine too.
I feel like, yeah, we've all just built such a beautiful community get together and love and support. And I really just don't know what I would do without you guys. I just don't. So
let's see. See what this one says. Sarah said, my grandpa never liked his son, my dad. In his will after he died, he accused him of selling a gun he gave him from World War II, and that was it. Yeah. You know what? Deaths in the family caused some crazy family feuds, dude. Oh my gosh, when my dad passed, I was okay. Hazley was just about to turn a year old. Her birthday's December 29th. My dad passed on the 12th. And I'd been clean 16, 18, 19, 3 years at that point. So, but none of my family on that side, on my dad's side over in Spokane, ever thought to ask me anything. They just heard what they heard and ran with it. So when I got off the plane for my dad's funeral, and to go get him cremated and take care of his stuff and do all this really heavy stuff, my entire family over there outside of my sister and brother looked at me like I got off the plane with a baby and a needle hanging out of my arm. Not one of them asked how I'm doing or what happened, except for my dad's dad. And what's crazy is my dad's dad was really abusive to my father. And I just think later in life, he kind of like, I don't know if life humbled him or if he realized that how he was acting was wrong, but he was the one person that asked me what happened. He literally just flat out, he was like, how'd you get yourself into this trouble? And it meant so much to me that he gave me that opportunity, because I'm not joking. I went to dinner with everybody and no one would talk to me. I could be like, oh, hey guys, how's everything going? Hope everyone's doing good. No one would look at me. They wouldn't talk to me. And I got up and I left and I was bawling in the middle of this like Golden Corral. And I called my grandma and I was like, it was almost Christmas. I'm like, I need to come home. I'm like, I cannot be here anymore around these people. I need to grieve in peace. I cannot do this anymore. And that was just so hard. But it is so hard dealing with deaths in family. People lose their ever-loving minds.
Oh, yeah. And people, I mean, death does crazy things to people, you know? And everybody handles those type of emotions differently. And it's not always right sometimes. Because when my father asked me to, because he retired in Mexico, and he asked me to get a passport and all these things so I could be on the will. And I respectfully declined being on the will because of how much shit I went through when my grandma passed. Like it was, we're going to fight for everything we could get. And I didn't care about that. I don't care. I wanted the 90s that my grandma wore every night. I wanted the things that had no
meaning, like cash value.
I wanted the meaning. I don't want cash value things. I didn't care about it. I wanted a part of my grandmother, and I couldn't understand why people were so greedy. They split up all her jewelry, and then they wanted to split up the diamond in a ring that my her first husband gave her, and he was a POW. Like it was so like, what are you guys doing? Like it was baffling. It was baffling. So I kindly that was one of the boundaries I set for me. I'm gonna get this on my own, and I don't want anything handed down. I don't want to deal with that anymore. I don't want to deal with the chaos, and I just don't. So I respectfully declined being on the will.
Yeah. I really love what Elizabeth said here. It says, what I have learned is my journey. It's not your journey, and it's not for me to judge. It's for me to give you unconditional love no matter where you are in life. If you can't do that for people, maybe just don't comment at times, because it's so true. Sometimes all someone need is for you to listen and give them a hug. Unless they're not a hugger, then, you could just pat their back. It's like, we're not here to judge each other's experiences. And me and Dee will be the first ones to tell you that, because, man, we have both been in some pretty messed up situations by our own doing. You know what I mean? And it's just no one else's place to judge your journey, unless you're gonna, it's just kind of comes down to that saying, like, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything, because people are hurting and grieving and going through things. And if you don't have something to add positive to that, then just let it go. Just move along.
And if
you know what I mean?
If you can't even put yourself in somebody's shoes and understand why this is happening, or why, because we all are who we are because of the paths we've walked on.
Anne, I love this. She said, now that I've had time to process everything, it's absolutely for the best. They were toxic and manipulative. It took distance to recognize it. I agree. I agree. It's the same concept as trying to get sober from drugs while hanging out with drug addicts. It's so hard. If you can't get yourself away from the manipulator, the abuser, the narcissist, your healing journey is going to be so much harder. And sometimes it's not possible. I'm not saying that from a place of judgment, like you need to or you can't. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, it can truly, it takes time and distance for you to even realize. I have a good friend who recently left an abusive relationship, and I had to go pick her up from 4 hours away and take her dogs and, get her into a shelter here and all these things. And, the other day she was doing her makeup, and I go in there and she's just bawling. And I'm like, what, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And she was just talking about how her spouse had taken so much from her. She wasn't allowed to do her makeup anymore. She wasn't allowed to go in stores alone. She wasn't allowed to do anything really. And so now that she has this freedom and she's putting on her makeup, she's realizing, she's like, wow, I didn't realize how bad it was. I didn't realize how much I had let my boundaries go and how much I'd given myself to this person and taken away from myself. And it's like
reliving those experiences as you're healing from them. You go back into those same feelings, and it's so hard to not just dive into them, rather than feeling them and handling them with grace.
Yeah, Mindy.
We love you, Mindy. We love you.
Yeah, Mindy, I'm 60 years old, and I have completely shut down emotionally from the world to the point that I haven't been able to cry in over 5 years. watching you guys, Sam, Tommy, and Reese is cracking my shell. I love that, girl. We are here for that. There's no limit on healing. You can heal at any time that you choose. Well, not like you can just, hey, you're healed. I choose it. I'm healed. That's not what I'm saying. But, you get to start that process whenever you choose. Yeah. And that's so beautiful.
And we do want to open up. We are going to create a website for everybody that is going through similar things. Mindy, like, I understand being so like, just like feeling like a hollow shell or like just dark to the world. Like you're in so much negativity, and with the world nowadays, everybody's got something to say. Everything's so negative. There's so many dark things happening around us, but we want to open up our website for people to, if this helps you, it's almost like journaling, writing to us if you want us to read it, if you don't,
right,
in our life, and like we can dish it out and talk about it, or you can join us. Like, we would really love to get to that point where everybody can sit here and talk about their stories and heal together.
Right. Or if you would like to like have your story told on here anonymously too. Did you say that? Was that a part of that? Yeah.
No,
okay.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. If you, we'll link our email in here. If you want to email us, you don't have to be anonymous to do it, but like if there's something that's really holding you down, something you've never told anybody or that you haven't told many people and you need help processing that, we'd be super happy to read your story anonymously on here. And you can get support from the chat, and from us as well. We would really love that. That would be super fantastic. So Bless said, I'm just glad my dad isn't here to see this. He would be so hurt. She said to me, the only reason we were connected was because of my dad, other hurtful things, but that hurt the most. Bless, I'm going to tell you something. I definitely don't think this is the healthiest thing to do, but when my dad passed and they were all awful to me in like a spur of the moment anger, I was like, when your car doesn't start, just know that's my dad. Like, he doesn't like any of you.
Yeah, because he knows what hell you put me through. He's rolling in his damn grave right now, and shame on you for like, I don't know.
Yep.
Family is such a complex thing.
I've always found peace.
It's really hard to accept and deal with such I guess a negativity again towards you, especially when it comes from people that are supposed to love you unconditionally and love you the most in this world. And be there for you during these type of times. We're all supposed to come together.
Right. Maybe a more helpful piece of advice would be like, I have this little silly thing that I do that my therapist told me once. And it's like, I hold space for a thought. So if you even think about like, her saying, the only reason that that you're a part of our lives was because of your dad, hold space for that thought. And what I do is I imagine it on like a can in the grocery store. Just imagine it's written right on that can in the store, and you pick it up and you look at that. Do you want to buy that today? Is that what you need? No. So we're going to put it back on the shelf. You know what I mean? Just put that away. We're not buying that today. It's not true. And you know what's true in your heart. So don't let other people tell you your truth. You know what I mean? You know in your heart what your truth is. So don't let anybody else tell you what that is. You get to choose.
So sorry. Oh, my stomach just gurgled.
I
love the chat be chatting. I love this.
Yes, thank you guys.
So successful with you guys and being able to hear what we're all going through. Like, I'm just so grateful everybody's here and everybody's pouring out. I feel like people are comfortable to just say it, and we love that. It's the whole point of this. But
yes,
to wrap up with what today is, I feel like our boundaries show people how to love us correctly. And boundaries are going to bring light and value, even if it's uncomfortable. It's gonna create value in yourself and create value into your life. So step out of your comfort zone. Don't let people sit here and tell you how you should live your life and what you should have done and what you could have done. Like, as long as we're sitting here and self-reflecting on the things that we could have handled better and doing the work to heal ourselves from these things, so we're not repeating the same cycle over and over. And one day we can be free from all of this trauma and negativity in our life. Yeah.
I love that. I just think that healing is a process and there's no one way to do it. And that's what we're here for, is to help support everybody and ourselves, because helping you guys helps us, guys. It's just such a healing thing. And, me and Dee really started this podcast because we probably have, at least 3 or 4 conversations a week that are a few hours long. And we're talking about we're talking about our healing, our growth, where we can do better. And we just think that it's something that other people can come and find a safe space into, so we're really, really appreciative of our first 23 people on our live. Thank you, every single one of you. We really appreciate it. On our next live or our next video, we're going to try and set to do at least 3 or 4 lives a week. So that there's kind of a constant space that you guys can jump into if you need it. So we'll be making some announcements on that, on when we'll be doing those lives. And we're just so thankful for every one of you.
And you know what? Sorry, can I just comment on Anne's comment she just made?
Yes.
She said, I'm 56 and I've learned over the years that other people's opinions are just that, opinions. And if you are not in my inner circle, your opinions don't really matter. And I was just talking about this with my son literally yesterday. And this is what's so, I feel like everybody is brought in your life for a reason. And just because you said that, it kind of made me excited, because I just told, my son goes through like something. He's 5 and people are commenting on his shoes and his shirt and his haircut. And he's like, I spiked his hair up one day and he said, Mama, will you put my hair back down? Because there's girls in my class that make fun of my hair. And so we picked up an item. Is this a pen? Is that a fact or an opinion? That's a fact. Okay. If I say this pen is the prettiest pen in the entire world, is that a fact or an opinion? He said opinion. And teaching them what facts and opinions is. Opinion. Okay, everybody has their right to opinions, but do you like your shirt? That's a fact. You like your shirt? That's a fact because you like it. Their opinion does not matter. Their opinion does not matter of what they want to say about you.
Absolutely.
And that was just great, because I literally just went over this with Rowan about fact and opinion, and I taught him what a fact and what an opinion is. And other people's opinions of what you do in your life does not matter. It does not matter.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. She said, yes, girls, absolutely. You are 100% correct. Love, love, love the channel and format. Thank you for the safe place. Thank you for being a part of it. Seriously, we couldn't do it without any of you guys. And we're just so thankful for all of that. So on our next one, we'll do, a little bit, we'll pick a topic and try and stay on it. We both have severe ADHD. So we might jump around.
Did all right. We did good.
We did good. We did really good today. Yeah.
Boundaries and self-love and opinions, facts, So
someday we'll release the.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. We'll be getting into some stories, some more in-depth stories.
Yes. Yeah. And if there's anything you guys want us to expand on or you want to know more about, just let us know in the chat, or you can email us. I did link our email. Well, I didn't link it yet, but my husband will do that for me, I'm sure. Or Dee can.
I can type it in the
this stuff.
I can.
I typed it in the chat already.
Oh, you? Oh, yeah.
I did that.
Right here, the bbb.m.d7@gmail.com. So sorry for the complicated email I created.
All right, we are going to get off here, but thank you all so much for coming, and we're just so appreciative and just so thankful for all of you.
Yeah, we're sending out all the love, the respect, and good luck on everybody's healing journey. We're still healing and doing better every single day, and thanks for being here with us, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye, guys.